Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Every plant enthusiast wants to have a greenhouse of his own. This year my dream come true and built my first greenhouse. In this video, I want to share with you the entire process of building a greenhouse and some useful points that we need to keep in mind. We will talk about how to choose the materials to buy for building a greenhouse and the pros and cons of each material. Finally, we'll take a look at my greenhouse and the various costs. I believe this video will definitely be helpful to you. If you like this video, please thumbs up and share it with more friends. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing as we will have more exciting videos in the future. Thank you for your support. Before building a greenhouse, we first need to find an open space on your property. The greenhouse should be built in a sunny location away from large trees. Because big trees will block sunlight and produce a shaded area, the construction of a greenhouse in spots like that would be pointless. Secondly, summer storms or winter heavy snows could break the branches, and the branches would fall down and crush the greenhouse. Before determining the location of your greenhouse, you also need to know the boundaries of your property. Due to our local zoning laws, the greenhouse should be constructed 5 feet away from the neighbor's property. The requirements for this distance vary from place to place. You can check with your local government for local regulations. Be sure to obey the regulations of the local government, otherwise the government may require you to dismantle the greenhouse after it has been built. Greenhouses can be freestanding or attached to an existing structure, such as a house or garage. If you have a balcony or deck next to your house or garage and the foundation is in good condition, then you could use the existing balcony or deck as a base to build a greenhouse that's right up against the house. In this way, you could save a lot of money by not having to lay a foundation. If you don't know whether the balcony or deck is connected to the house, you can find a contractor and ask. The advantage of a greenhouse like this attached to a house is that it is easy to access. We can open a door directly through the exterior wall. Outside that door is the greenhouse, and inside the door is the living room or kitchen. The greenhouse is close to the house, so climate control is also more convenient. Just connect a heater to the house's electric. The fact that at least one side is up against a heated structure also means that there is less surface area through which heat loss to the outside environment can occur, which saves you having to pay a higher heating bill. A freestanding greenhouse requires a foundation. Concrete foundations are the most expensive. Our greenhouse uses its own foundation frame. At a little over $1,000, it's relatively cheap. It's also easy to build. A standalone greenhouse requires additional independent water and electricity systems, so that you can use electrical appliances such as heaters, humidifiers, fans, etc. It also makes it easier to water plants. We can choose a greenhouse that is freestanding or attached to the house, depending on our preferences, situation, and budget. After we select the site location, we can design a blueprint and apply for a permit. In the United States, no matter what renovations you do at home, you need to consult the local government. Ask if you need to apply for a permit. This must be asked clearly. If you do not have a permit and do not comply with government regulations, the government could force you to demolish it after you complete the project, or make you apply for a permit after paying a heavy fine. Even if you don't get caught, it can make selling the house difficult if there is unpermitted work on the property. When I applied for a permit, I downloaded and filled out a form from the local government's official website. Then, we sent information about the greenhouse which we want to build and this site plan to the local government for review. This site plan mainly shows where the greenhouse will be built, and whether it is more than 5 feet away from the neighbor's property line. I drew this site plan myself. There was no need to call in a professional surveyor, we just measured the size of the house and land ourselves. If your title deed has it included, the house plan would be better, and you could use that. Just add the greenhouse that needs to be built. Our permit review took about a week to pass, which was very fast. After the permit was approved, we paid a fee of more than $100. Later, the government sent the permit to my home. We hanged that permit where others could see it, and then we started to build the greenhouse. For many greenhouses, you can purchase the corresponding materials online and assemble them yourself. Of course, we could also ask a contractor to help us build it. Initially we contacted a local contractor. He was very interested in the project and quoted us more than $5,000. We wanted to sign a contract with him, but he was unwilling to sign the contract. This project was later abandoned. Some contractors here only give you quotes and do not have detailed contracts with customers. When encountering this situation, you should download some contract templates online and modify them yourselves. If you are worried, you can ask a lawyer to help you write a contract. Then ask the contractor to sign this detailed contract with you. If this contractor is unwilling to sign the contract, you can always find another contractor. The contract must state that the contractor has their own insurance. If a contractor or someone in their company is injured while on the job, their own insurance will need to pay for the medical expenses. If this is not included in the contract, anyone who is injured in your home will go to court to claim medical expenses from you or your homeowner's insurance. The contract should also include the date the work will be completed. This prevents some contractors from holding you back and not completing the work in time. There is also a warranty, which is to ensure that the quality of the greenhouse is up to standard after it is built. This prevents shoddy workmanship. In addition to these, the contract can also include other clauses to ensure that the client and the contractor reach an agreement and that everything is foolproof. Because the contractor we were talking to was unwilling to sign a contract and gave up on the job, we later decided to assemble and build the greenhouse ourselves. Now, let's introduce all the different materials that people use to build a greenhouse and their advantages and disadvantages. Once we learn these, we can select the best material that suits your needs. We will cover some common materials for both the frame and the paneling. When it comes to framing, there are two common metal choices, aluminum and galvanized steel. Aluminum will last longer than other materials, will be easier to cut and work with, and will be corrosion resistant. Galvanized steel is harder, heavier, and more difficult to work with. It also has lower rust resistance, but will still take a while to rust. Galvanized steel has better heat insulation than aluminum, and its increased strength means that it is a good choice for heavy paneling like glass. However, both metal options should be put into perspective. If you live in a coastal area, salt is heavily corrosive to both steel and aluminum, and exposure to salt air will reduce their lifespan. Another choice is plant material, such as wood or bamboo. There are many different options, and while some are stronger than others, they won't be stronger than metal. They are typically inexpensive and have appealing aesthetics, along with good insulation, especially in cold climates. Wood is better suited to northern locales, for two reasons. The first is its ability to insulate in the winter. The second is termites. Termites are less common or completely absent in the north, while they can be very common in the south. Termite damage to wooden framing can be catastrophic for your whole greenhouse. If your heart is set on wood and you live in the south, it may be better to go with a wood which contains natural insect-repelling compounds like redwood, cedar, cypress, or teak. Also keep in mind that the high humidity inside of a greenhouse will eventually cause any wood to decay. The final option would be a plastic-based material like PVC. While this has a lot of upsides, there are two pretty big downsides. It's structurally weak, and will degrade over time in sunlight. Because of this, it's best for small, short-term structures, not large long-term ones. Overall, aluminum was our top choice for a frame material, followed by wood. Galvanized steel and PVC are two other options for you to consider, as many greenhouse kits come with frames made from these materials. Your choice of glazing material will be just as critical. You have to take into consideration light transmission, strength, insulation, and aesthetics. The most iconic material is glass. We had very romantic notions of a Victorian glasshouse when we first set out to build a greenhouse. However, glass has a lot of drawbacks. It's very expensive, and very heavy. Its heaviness means that you will also need to invest in a more expensive framing material. Its inflexibility and delicacy makes it expensive to install, and once installed it is very fragile. It wouldn't take much to end up with a cracked or even shattered pane. Last year we suffered through a hail storm with golf ball-sized hailstones. We shuddered to think about watching something like that hammer down on an old-fashioned glass house. In the north there's also the consideration of snow load to consider. However, even with all these downsides, glass is still the most beautiful option, with the best heat insulation, if multi-paned, and light transmission. It is a good choice if you have a location and climate which minimizes any risk of damage. It's more common to see in the south for this reason. There are also tempered glass options that are much stronger than you would expect, though nothing is foolproof. Another option is fiberglass. Fiberglass is more lightweight, durable, and inexpensive. However, it has a tendency to yellow with age, reducing its overall light diffusion. The other options are all plastic. Polyethylene is a cheap, lightweight film that is often seen stretched over hoop houses. It has good light transmission, but isn't as good an insulator as other options and degrades over time, eventually requiring replacement. You can increase the heat retention by doing multiple layers of polyethylene. Despite these drawbacks, it is the most common choice around the world because of its cost-effectiveness. It is also a bad mix with PVC framing due to chemical incompatibilities. Polycarbonate glazing is composed of rigid or semi-rigid panels constructed with cells divided by plastic walls. This trapped air provides superior heat insulation over polyethylene, and the panels themselves are more durable and long-lasting. It's also more lightweight and less expensive than glass. You can get panels that possess different levels of thickness/layers, which provide better insulation. Polycarbonate panels diffuse light more, so they also might be a better choice for summer growing, or for plants which are susceptible to sunburn. While it isn't as inexpensive as polyethylene, polycarbonate glazing is still a budget-friendly option. The final option that we're going to examine today is acrylic. Acrylic offers great light transmission and durability, and while it appears to be clear like glass, it is also somewhat flexible, making it easier to work with. It's a moderately expensive option, especially if you want a more permanent greenhouse structure with that glass appearance, but without the many hassles that working with glass presents. All of these options present different pros and cons depending on your specific situation. Also, keep in mind that certain framing and glazing options will be incompatible with one another, e.g. you can't put heavy glass on a structurally weak frame, and PVC will off-gas in a way which damages polyethylene. Your final big decision will come down to flooring. There's a wide range of options. Some people will even install actual flooring, raised above the ground. This can provide additional insulation, but it often involves wood and so is not practical for many greenhouses. Another option is to use pavers, bricks, or concrete. These options won't provide good insulation, but it will provide a stable, level surface. While concrete will always present drainage problems, with pavers and bricks you're presented with a trade-off: mortar the flooring, which means that you ought to install a drain as you would have to with concrete, or don't mortar it, which means that you will need to deal with weeds growing up through the cracks. Other options that present weed problems eventually are mulch and gravel. In any of these situations, I would recommend putting down a weed-suppressing fabric before putting in your flooring. While mulch has visual appeal, it also presents several issues. It will decompose, and it may also harbor pests, including nuisance insects like thrips or mealy bugs that can rise from the mulch to terrorize your collection every winter. It does, however, provide some degree of insulation. Some people will also use rubber mats. We're not a fan of this as it can negatively affect drainage, but it might be good for older people for whom walking and standing can be a chore. The mats provide some cushioning. The last option is to just leave the floor as bare dirt. This sounds like a nightmare to us. You'll be working with a weed-infested muck pit. Also, keep in mind that you can combine these. If you installed a concrete foundation around the edges, you could extend that concrete further in to provide a stable surface for shelves or tables. Then fill the center of the greenhouse with gravel to provide drainage. You could also create paths out of pavers or bricks and then fill in between them with mulch or gravel. Maintaining the right temperature is crucial for successful greenhouse gardening, especially during colder seasons. Here are two of the most common methods to provide heat for a greenhouse. Electric heaters use electricity to heat up a greenhouse. They are easy to install and control. Usually electric heaters are efficient and cost-effective for small or medium-sized greenhouses. For a giant greenhouse, you may want to install a gas heater to save money on your heating bills. Also, pay attention to the frequency of power outages in your area if you use an electric heater. If they could last longer than an hour or two, a backup generator is a must. Finally, consider the feasibility of running an electric line out to your structure. Gas heaters include propane or natural gas heaters. They are efficient and provide consistent heat. Here, I want to emphasize the differences between a vent-free propane heater and a vented propane heater. There are significant trade-offs at play. Unvented propane heaters are more efficient and much easier to install while also being less expensive. The drawbacks, however, are significant. Propane combustion consumes oxygen and produces CO2 and water. The water vapor produced can raise the internal humidity levels so high that it exacerbates fungal and bacterial plant diseases. The CO2 is also an issue, for both plants and humans. There's a lot of misinformation out there about how plants love CO2, and it is true that photosynthesis breaks down CO2 and produces oxygen. However, plants photosynthesize during the daytime, when sunlight is available. They do not photosynthesize at night, when it is dark. Your heater will mostly be running at night, and at night plants respire, similarly to people, and actually consume oxygen and produce CO2. So it's not at all a positive to be depleting the oxygen and increasing the CO2 at night. And the asphyxiation risk that this proves to people goes without saying, and that's before you factor in other combustion byproducts such as carbon monoxide and nitrogen dioxide. Taking this into consideration, it's always best to vent your propane heater. A vented heater will expel all of that nasty stuff outside, so it's well worth the extra installation costs/hassle. Natural gas is also an option if you have a natural gas line running to your property. Once you swallow the cost for the initial hookup and installation, this is the most cost-effective options for large greenhouses, but it is only available if you have a line run. After careful consideration, we decided to use an electric heater to maintain the temperature in our greenhouse during the cold seasons. As our greenhouse is only 10 by 18 feet, the heater warms it up quickly and evenly. It achieves uniform heating throughout the greenhouse without hot spots and cold spots. It has a built-in thermostat, which can be adjusted from high to low. We can set our preferred temperature, and the heater will automatically maintain that temperature by kicking on and off when certain thresholds are met. It also operates very quietly, which is another advantage. Now, let's take a look at this greenhouse we assembled ourselves and the costs associated with it. This is the Hocklertherm Riga 5 greenhouse. The size is 10 by 18. We live in Pennsylvania where we sometimes get thunderstorms in the summer and heavy snow in the winter. Sometimes it hails. There are a lot of trees around, and branches often break, causing them to fall and smash things. Therefore, for the greenhouse, we were most concerned about its sturdiness and thermal insulation performance. The overall build of this greenhouse is referred as onion-shaped in Germany, where it was manufactured. It is built to withstand strong winds and heavy snows. Due to the shape, it is quite aerodynamic as far as greenhouses go, and snow will simply slide down the sides. The materials are aluminum framing 8mm UV-coated twin-wall polycarbonate on the sides, with 10mm thickness on the front and back walls. It is much thicker than normal greenhouse glazes, and therefore offers great insulation, which reduces your heating bills in winter significantly. In summer, the internal temperature can be regulated by opening the front door, a large rear window, and 4 different roof windows. Assembly of this greenhouse was pretty easy, as it comes with written assembly instructions. We actually watched the YouTube video published by the manufacturer and followed their detailed instructions to install this greenhouse. This greenhouse cost $8,000, and we also purchased its foundation frame, which was $1,300. We removed the grass from the ground ourselves and covered the dirt with weed-suppressing cloth to prevent grass from regrowing. Finally, a layer of limestone gravel was laid on top. A ton of stones was used and it cost us more than $100. This heater was $220 and it is easy to use. We hired an electrician to run an electric line, install a new breaker, and install outlets here, which cost about $1,400 in total including the permit applied for at that time, which was more than $100. The total cost of building this greenhouse was a bit over $11,000. Overall it's been fine. We have been using it for about a month now, and the temperature is well controlled, between 65 and 75, which is very suitable for the growth of our orchids and various tropical plants. Whatever your particular situation, there's some ideal combination of these various factors which will best serve your needs. By paying attention to your intentions as far as what you're going to grow and when, the unique challenges which your locale presents, and your budget, then explore your options. I hope that you have enjoyed this video and that it is helpful to you. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Thanks for watching and see you next time.